see if this works.
Do I have
So
to click this OK button?
you don't know why? What came up?
Don't show this again. There's content being sent to a third party.
Yeah, that's fine. Just hit OK. Bye bye, bud. This is it.
We live?
We are. We are. Thousands of people watching us right now.
All right. Well, let's get this party started. All right. Hello and welcome to Talent Talk. I'm Jay Brunetti. That's Dave Kamel. We are co-owners, co-founders, co-big toes, whatever you want to call us, of Hire Alliance. Um, Hire Alliance is a staffing company that services the staffing industry and the corporate recruiting, talent acquisition world. We started this company in 2004, which is 21 years ago, which is a long time, and it means only one thing, and that is we are old. As a matter of fact, Dave and I got in the business in 1994, which means we've actually been doing this for 31 years, which is also terrible to think about. So I'm going to stop talking because everything I'm saying is getting worse and worse. So, Dave, Talent Talk, what are we doing here? What's this all about?
So Jay and I talked about doing this Talent Talk thing back in 2021. So probably a year after COVID, when things were, let's put it bluntly, things were different, a little bit better than what they are the day after Liberation Day. I mean, Jay thought of Hire Alliance a long ass time ago as a place for talent acquisition professionals to go when they wanted to look for a job. And I told him that was a dumb idea back in 2004. And unfortunately, I was wrong. And then 2021, we said, we saw a lot of podcasts, we saw a lot of video stuff going out there. And Jay and I said, why don't we do this? And why don't we do it live? I didn't want to record anything. I didn't want to try to make it be all pretty and shit. So we said, let's do it live. And it took us only 4 years to do it
A lot of
because,
planning.
like
A lot
Jay
of
said, we're old, and we have landlines. That's how old we are. So yeah, so the medium of this talent talk and what we want to get out of it and what we want to do is kind of organic. We know the market is brutal. And Jay's going to talk a little bit about the agency side. I'll talk a little bit about the corporate recruiting talent acquisition side. We know what things are like now compared to where they were in 2021. But we also want to have people on this podcast from all over the place. We want to invite people that Jay and I know that can inspire. We want to talk about different dynamics of the market, people that are in this market hiring and what they're seeing, people that are in the agency side, people that are outside the agency world. We want to definitely throw the invitation out there to who wants to come on board and talk. And we want to hear suggestions from other people. You should have this person on, you should have this person on. So, how you get in contact with Jay and I, our LinkedIn's are in the information here. So, we want this to be a very organic kind of thing where each one we have is a different topic. How often we're going to do it, we don't know that either. This may be our only one. We may get more feedback on this that you two should not be on camera ever again
high
because it's just
probability.
too much bald. I've got the live chat on for people that want to talk to us. I've got that on right now. If it gets too distracting, I'll turn it off. But this is just something we've always wanted to do and have fun with it, but we also want to pay attention to what the market is like right now. And Jay, talk a little bit about Jay's side of the business, which does most of the staffing of staffing companies. What's it like over there right now?
Yeah, I mean, the staffing industry side of things, I will tell you, I mean, the year started off really strong, and I mean, it still has been busy, right? I think we've got a lot of staffing clients that are hiring. They want to be ahead of the game versus behind the game. For us, this first quarter has been a lot busier than last year's first quarter. I would say the market in general is busier today than it was, 6 months ago. There's no doubt about that. Now, I think as we came into the beginning of the year, everyone was really excited about 2025. Let's just move on and kind of get past the last couple of years. And it started like gangbusters. I think there's been a little bit of a pullback, but we're still seeing, some pretty aggressive hiring. I think depending on the niche that the staffing firm is in, depending on, the geography, some folks are busier than others. But I will say, for the most part, the beginning of this year has been pretty good. What's going to come down the pike? I mean, who knows? I mean, again, I think, and I've seen a lot of stuff about this, but we could spend all day, every day, kind of like watching the market go up and down, and what's happening in the White House, and what's going on over here, and what's going on over there. And I think that can cause a lot of unfocused behavior. You start getting wrapped up in all this stuff, and you can put yourself into a rabbit hole and just decide to not even get out of bed. So we probably don't want to do that. The focus is to get up and still do what you do every day. Don't kind of fall into the world's ending, so I'm just not going to do anything. And I see that there is, the clients of mine anyway that are kind of going down that road are seeing some success. There are clients of theirs that are hiring. There is stuff going on. But yeah, it is certainly not 2021 or 2022 and even the beginning of 2023 when we were kind of running around with jobs falling out of the sky and things are going crazy. So, it's not great, it's not terrible. We're kind of in the middle, and I'm cautiously optimistic about where we're going to go. I mean, it's crazy to say that after the market's down 1,300 points or whatever it is, but there I am. I'm doing it. I'm looking at the market. I should probably delete that app and just focus on what my client wants tomorrow and see if we can find it. But that's what's happening on our side.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a sign of the times, just to do a little bit of homework on what's going on with Higher Alliance. Some of you know that last year we had a golf tournament called the Agency Open, and it would be absent-minded of me not to mention the winners of the Bank W staffing team, who, wanted me to give them a plug because they were so good. Wanted to come back this year and defend it, and Raleigh and Cormier and Leahy and the gang. I think three out of the people on that team were had their PGA cards, so we're going to look into that if we do it again. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, the agency open is going to get postponed until 2026. I mean, the feedback that Jay and I are getting trying to launch that again this summer is cautious is a good word that Jay has used as far as agencies spending anything except money on their own firm, on their own company. So we're not going to try to force the issue with the agency open. It was a fun event. It was awesome. It was a charitable event, and we're going to do it again, but we're going to put a pin in that until June of 26. So that is something that we're going to have to move on. Going to have to move on. And Jay, people are starting to make comments.
Uh,
Jay, when did you get that beard? You look so sexy.
well, we
No,
were going to call this
no one said that. I'm just kidding. No one said
two
that.
bald guys, one beard,
No.
but
Yeah,
I guess
we're not going to do
we
that.
lost that. We lost that as
So the corporate recruiting side, and I'm not sure what to say about the corporate recruiting side because we can't ignore how bad it's been for as long as it's been. And I don't one of the things that Talent Talk is going to try to do is I can't say it's going to have answers on how the corporate recruiter that's been out of work for 2 years is going to get a job. How to differentiate yourself against other people? Sure, we can talk about that. And I know people I'd love to bring in to talk about how to make yourself different than everybody else. But the corporate recruiting world is just, it's been brutal since the end of 22, beginning of
Yep.
23.
Yep.
And I'm talked to a bunch of people in the corporate recruiting world. It's going to get better at the end of 2023. It's going to get better in 24, and 25's got to get better. And here we are already into April. And the layoffs, I mean, LinkedIn is just a very depressing place to be right now. And I don't know, when it's going to get better. I don't know when the light at the end of the tunnel is going to come because as old as Jay and I are, and as bald as we are, and we lived through the 2001 and the 2008 mess, and then COVID, this is different. And everybody has their own take as to what happened. Did they hire too many recruiters at the end of as soon as COVID, and they hired too many, and then they had to get rid of companies just too cautious? I don't know what the secret formula is as to why it's just an absolute mess out there right now, and when it's going to get better. What I do know, speaking for the agencies that do what we do, and I'm not going to mention who they are, they know who they are, but the agencies that do what we do, when it comes to ghosting and not getting back to those corporate recruiters, it's not something we're intentionally doing. And I've got a list of names of people that I've tried to talk to over the past couple of months. We don't have anything, and it's a horrible thing to say, but we have very little when it comes to talent acquisition, corporate recruiting positions, and perm or contract because there's just so many people on the street. Let's just talk non-BS for a second. If a company posts an ad and they get 5,000 responses in 12 hours, that company's not going to spend money on a bill rate or a fee right now. They don't have to. Now, does that person want to sift through 5,000 resumes? I would say no. Call a company like us and we'll do that shit for you. But right now, the agencies that place the talent acquisition and corporate recruiters, it sucks. It absolutely sucks for us because we cannot get any client to talk to us because of how many people are on the street. It's absolutely brutal. But I don't want to be all doom and gloom because a part of this is okay, what can we do? Who can we bring in that is a corporate recruiting director and find out what their point of view is when it comes to, what do you pay attention to? How do these corporate recruiters that have been on the street for 2 years find something? What can they do? And that's unfortunately, where we are right now. Where we are right now in the corporate recruiting market is it's a wait and see. Is at the end of 25 things are going to get better? Is it 26? Liberation Day yesterday. Ew. I mean, just like Jay said, don't look at the stock market because that's just going to depress the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, we can't go
So
too far in the future. We've only got a few years left. I mean, come on now. You're
that's true.
getting old. You're getting old.
The next table talk, the next talent talk, we're going to have nasal cannulas and oxygen tanks next
Yeah,
to us. It's going to be
no, it's coming.
fantastic.
It's coming fast.
Well,
Yeah, I
speaking
will
of old,
say,
speaking of old,
with the corporate world, it's the only good news there that you see is there are people getting jobs. That wasn't happening for a while. It's going to be a while before the staffing client like us get openings. To Dave's point, because they don't need us, but we're at least seeing some folks get off the street, get some jobs. I mean, it's better than it was, but it's still a slog. You got to keep fighting. I think that's one of the things we're going to bring Dave Turano on here in a minute, and that's what he's going to talk about a lot about how to kind of get yourself out there and what you can do to kind of be visible. But it is tough. There's no denying that. But yeah, you're just going to keep plugging through it, keep fighting through it, and see where we end up.
Dave Turano wants to come in. Do we
Well,
want to
let's let him in.
do we want to bring him in? Do
Is
we
he
want
outside
to
your door? Like, where is he? Out the window? Where is he?
he's horrible with technology, so I'm not sure if he's absolutely going to do. He's already muted. His camera's not on.
Yeah,
He's a mess.
he'll be with us.
He's our
We're going to
first
take a short commercial break while Dave Toronto figures out
our
how
first
to.
guest is already a mess. But this is why we do. But again, this is also why we're doing this. Work out the kinks. Figure out
Live.
what
We're not
works
afraid
and
of
what
live.
doesn't.
Come on.
How's he doing? Is he doing good? He's a
He's
mess.
he's coming. I told you. There's sometimes it takes him a second. He's also older. We get a bunch of old folks running around here trying to figure this stuff out. I think he's coming.
Take your time.
Dave.
You know what? That was a beautiful eulogy you just gave for the industry. Very inspiring.
Oh, I mean we're just trying to make it real. You're here to be the positive guy. We're trying to pump you up. We're trying to get you to come in and be the savior. So let me do the intro. I got your 3-page bio, but I'm not reading that. Okay, I'm
Fine.
reading the 3-page bio.
I didn't send you one. Go ahead. Read
I know
whatever.
you didn't, but I thought it'd be funny if I said you did. So Dave is the founder of JCE Consulting. Dave's real bio, if you actually see it, says he's an executive advisor, performance coach, a situational sounding board. I like that one, by the way. I think I'm going to steal that.
Situational sounding board.
Situational sounding board. I'm going to use that for the rest of my life.
I mean,
I will say this. I mean, here's what I do know about Dave Toronto. We've known each other for, I don't know, 15, 16 years. Maybe it's been a long time. And Dave wakes up every day with a passion. I'd call it a mission from God, as the Blues Brothers would say, to help people be the best versions of themselves. Whether it's an executive trying to run a better business or an employee trying to be better at their job. I mean, Christ, even his own kids trying to be better in school. Dave, if you meet someone, he's trying to help them be a better version of themselves, which I think is awesome. He's certainly helped me through the years. So, Dave, I'm glad you're our first guest. Hopefully, you're not our last guest, and we have to pull the plug on this whole thing. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
But
Thanks,
I will say this. I'm looking at this as a viewer. We need we need younger guests. I mean, this is bad. This looks like a Cocoon trailer. Like a
Yeah.
sequel.
Look, my
It's
mom's
just
watching.
horrible.
We're young to her, so that's good.
This is just.
you guys look great. I think you guys look great, and I
It's
think
really great. Yeah, our first commercial sponsor is going to be like, depends. We're gonna.
Yeah. That's
Just-
coming.
we need younger
good.
guests immediately. This is not good.
all right. We gonna wrap this up soon or
So,
what?
Dave,
Yeah, we do.
listen,
Yeah.
you heard us. You heard the eulogy. You heard, hey, the world's ending. I know one of the things you talk about is kind of putting yourself out there, and how to do that. It's a big message of yours. So, talk about that. What does that mean to you, and why do you kind of focus on that?
Oh God, it's such a broad-based thing. You're stealing an idea that I sent over to you guys, but I think I was thinking that's something cool to talk about because the reality is, if you want to go anywhere, you got to start somewhere. And so, I was just thinking from the perspective of you're serving all of these, the agency world, the corporate world. There are people out there that can't find work. They don't know how to find work. They're submitting their resumes through portals and sometimes I think that the path that we all take is so traditional that you don't stand out. There's not enough of a differentiation to be noticed. So I think when it comes to putting yourself out there, you got to take some chances. And I was just thinking from my perspective or your perspective, you put yourself out there by starting your own business. In sales, you put yourself out there by making a cold call, whether it feels comfortable or not. Are you willing to take the chance? Are you willing to sound stupid? Are you willing to be choppy in what you say, just like I am right now? Are you willing to ask a tough question or challenge somebody that's pushing you around? There's so many different ways to do it. And the reality is we can focus on everything that sucks right now in the market, and I get it. But the reality is, guys, and you've been around long enough, and I have too, we're old, and I get it. But we've lived through a lot of challenging markets, and we're all still very much here. And, whether you want to hear it or not, I think about 2025. I am busier in 2025 than I've been in 10 years. So, and I sell air and ideas for a living. So I think part of it is you got to believe that what you do is of value to somebody else. There are people and there are companies that need what it is that you do, and they need what it is that I do. Whether they buy it or not, that need is there. And I think in order to put yourself out there, you've got to have conviction about it. So that's my quick speech on it. But we have to have people, and we have to be onboarding people into our companies that have just as much conviction about what they do and where they work in order to put themselves out there. That's my.
And
That's
to put themselves out there. I mean, I want to. I pose a riddle to you two, a quick riddle, something that we didn't rehearse. You guys love to tell people how smart you two are. Everybody that knows you knows that. So the egos are not small.
right. Right.
You're at Fenway Park. All right, you're at Fenway Park.
Yeah.
Your seats are 3 rows behind home plate. You've got like the creme de la creme seats behind home plate. Okay, these are fancy seats. This ticket gives you access to anything in the park. You can change the music in the park. It's like a super seat, right? You're 3 rows behind home plate at Fenway Park, and you're fucking hungry. All you want is a hot dog. You're sitting behind home plate, and you are absolutely famished. And you're looking around and trying to find a hot dog vendor, and you see one. You see one hot dog vendor, and he's about 17 rows up in the bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he is. You're sitting here, you're starving, and you're thinking, what the fuck how am I going to get a hot dog from the guy who's 17 rows up? One vendor. All right? You're hungry. Now do this. How much does Fenway hold? 35,000 people? There's 35,000 people in Fenway Park that want a hot dog. And there's Bob, the vendor, sitting out there 17 rows up, the only guy that's going to try to get you a hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting here. Now replace that hot dog vendor. It's a corporate recruiting position paying about 150 grand. Tech recruiting position, 5 to 7 years, out of Chicago, remote.
Mm-hmm.
You're a corporate recruiter, tech recruiter, sitting 4 rows behind home plate. He's 17 rows up in the bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
25,000 people in the stadium are also corporate recruiters, tech recruiters, 3 to 5 years experience. They can work remote. How am I sitting behind home plate? All the technology in the world is at my fingertips. How am I getting the attention of that 17 row up in the bleachers at Fenway Park vendor? How am I getting the attention of that corporate recruiting position? What do I do?
Get off your ass, walk across the stadium, and tap on his shoulder.
Fine. So there's old man version.
Yeah.
Send a PDF. Send a resume. Send an I'm interested note on LinkedIn because you saw the posting. But think real hard now. Think of Fenway Park. He's in the middle of the bleachers. You have access to all the technology in the park. How do I get his attention?
Yeah, I'd call Bob. You know what I'm not doing is I'm not getting in the line.
No?
I'm not going to fight 30,000 people. What I'm going to do is figure out who I know that knows Bob and get intro to Bob.
The answer is both complex and simple. It's complex because it's not something we're already thinking about. It's not something the 3 of us are even thinking about because we didn't come from this school. Where is the vendor? Where is he? What's behind him?
Yeah, the big screen. Yeah.
I'm getting on the screen and I'm showing him myself. I'm getting on the screen, I'm getting on the Jumbotron, and I'm sending him a video interview, I'm sending a video something, I'm sending him something that isn't a PDF resume of myself or just a little post on LinkedIn. I'm doing something different than these 25,000. Oh shit, look at this guy. Look at this guy up on the screen that I can actually hear, I can see exactly what he's all about. the
Yeah.
uniqueness of how you're trying to get the attention of managers these days and the content. Dave, you talk about this all the time as far as putting yourself out there. Right now, everybody's talking about rebranding themselves in content. The people that are all over LinkedIn are if I see one more ad for AI, I'm gonna kill myself. And I guess we can talk about my feelings about AI in a minute. But the people that are talking about content building and how you brand yourself and how you get out there, if the 30 to 60-year-old corporate recruiters aren't paying attention to that stuff, you're dead. That is what I think. Again, Jay, you add the age of the three of us, and it's 642. The three of us putting ourselves out there right now in a live podcast, I never thought we would do. But the thought of trying to attract that one hot dog vendor sitting out there in the middle of Fenway Park by just, Jay, not standing in line, sending a quick message to him, he's not going to pay attention to you. But if he turns around and sees your ass up on the screen, who's this guy?
Well,
Yeah, everybody has to change the thought process, and that putting yourself out there has to be a real thing compared to what it was 5 years ago. So,
I think, but you're not wrong, Dave. And there's no one way to do anything. I mean, I don't really want any hot dogs from anybody, but given the scenario, that's what I would do. I wouldn't wait.
you're
I don't know
vegan.
I don't know how to log into the screen at Fenway Park. I don't know how to do that. But I
You
get
couldn't
your
get on the
analogy.
fucking Zoom.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
do it. But the bottom line is you have to. The reality is we've got to stop looking at I want to get that job. I want to apply to that position through that person, through this individual, and take a wider view on what it really means to develop a career or to get in with anybody. I work with a lot of young people, a lot of new college grads call me for advice. And they all have LinkedIn. Their profiles are incredibly neat. Their resumes are aesthetically pleasing. The AI embedded in these resumes is fantastic. Unfortunately, they all look the same. And very few of them actually have influential contacts, or they don't know how to leverage their contacts to get in front of other people. I have coached a lot of people in the space. With all due respect, I don't have a staffing client without all have more contacts than me. The average staffing professional that I've met in the last 20 something years does not know the contacts they have.
Mhm.
They have not physically met. The percentage of them have been on Zoom. Some of them have spoken by phone. A lot of them have hidden behind email. And when it comes to actually calling somebody and getting them on the phone or texting, that's not possible for a lot of people in the industry. They've dismissed the value of just being able to get in front of somebody. And bottom line is, we are still people. As long as human beings exist on the earth, we still have to do this. I don't care how old we are.
Mhm.
I really, and the industry is being destroyed by technology in a lot of ways. If you think technology is going to replace the face-to-face interaction, if you think it's going to replace the differentiator in your experience or your personality, you're nuts. It's not gonna. But if you believe that, you're not going to make the call. You're going to sit in the stands with everybody else in the space and hope that that vendor comes over and finds you. That's
Right.
not the way it works. So, and the reason I bring up the college kids is I've had a few call me in the last few months and tell me this is where I'd like to work. These are the types of companies I'd like to get in. Look at my connections. Who do I know well enough to make an intro? Boom. Talk to the president of this company. Talk to the CEO of that company. Are they hiring in the moment? Not always. It doesn't matter. It's a valuable add to their network. So unless that happens in a more proactive way, we're all going to believe that the industry is dead. It's not dead. I don't have a client right now that isn't hiring. All of my clients are hiring, and none of them can find people. They can't find people. Why? Because they're sitting behind their desk waiting for people to apply online.
Right.
Right? And the people that are looking for work, well, they can't get jobs because they're waiting for recruiters and talent acquisition people to call them back.
And I'll also take, I mean, the Fenway analogy, stupid or not, looking at that from the corporate recruiting, trying to get a job perspective. I'd also look at that, and Jay, you can attest to this. The AEs, the account executives, the account developers sitting at the agencies right now, I don't care what industry it is, struggling to get recs, struggling to get that client on the phone. Also, that has to be changed. How are you attacking that customer? How are you attacking that client? How are you attacking that manager? Is it just a connection on LinkedIn and, like you said, just hope and pray? So again,
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't want to
Dave.
ignore the brutality of what's out there, but you just have to change how you're doing
Yeah,
it.
I was going to say, Dave, Turano. this is going to get fun, Dave Turano, Dave Kamel, but Turano, what stops people from doing that? When you say it, I'm listening to you talk about, you've got to get out there, you've got to, get in front of your customers and have dinners and lunches. It seems so logical. We grew up doing all that. Why are people not doing that?
Right.
I don't know that everyone's not doing it. I don't want to say that.
I know a lot of people aren't. I know a lot
But
of.
but I think we've gotten comfortable with the ease of going back and forth with technology. My whole business is run off of Zoom. My podcast is run off of Zoom. I know how to edit stuff now. I use my phone for everything. All my coaching is done over. So
I'm so
it's
proud of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I use AI, and I use it. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. But so we can't pretend that this stuff isn't of value. It is, and I use it. It's fantastic. But the real key is not the willingness to use the technology. It's not, don't use the technology as a replacement for you. And I think what gets in people's way is people are often worried about what other people think of them. They don't want to sound stupid. They don't want to look unprepared. They don't want to interrupt anybody. They feel less important than the person they're calling. They have the perception that the people that might buy from them are busy, which they're not. Nobody's busy. I can walk into any company right now, including yours, and see you guys playing games on your computer. So nobody's that busy.
Whoa,
And
whoa, whoa.
so there's this perception that the world is busy and they don't have time for me. And there's a perception that what I sell is just like what everyone else sells. And the reality is once you stop believing that, it's true. It's true. So I think what gets in the way is a lack of belief, a lack of conviction, because those beliefs or lack of conviction is formed inside of an office, inside of a bedroom, not outside. Because if you're outside talking to people and you're having real conversations with them, you'll realize that there is a demand for every service out there. So I think what gets in the way is what's between your ears and what you believe to be true, because you're not experiencing anything outside of your house.
Well, what also gets in the way, and this is a fault of Jay and I's.
Hold on, I'll determine that once you say.
Jay has very little faults, but the faults of agency owners like Jay and I that grew up a billion years ago doing this a certain way is not how it can get done now. So why aren't people doing it now? Because things worked. The way I did the business worked fine in 1999, in 2001, in 2005, and in 2021.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to change how I do my talent acquisition, staffing, running my desk. I shouldn't have to change. The market should change for me. I shouldn't have to change the way the market is. It's stubbornness. And the funny thing is, the staffing owners, the agency owners that are like 25, 30 years old that own an agency and are running it, they're in better shape than Jay and I because they're in tune with the technology a little bit more. They're not stuck in how they did it 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's and that's a roadblock. I mean, the AI thing, you're never going to. If my daughter's upstairs, 17-year-old's upstairs using chat LGBTQ, whatever the fuck it's called, if she's using that to do a report on Christopher Columbus, I don't blame her. I don't think she should, but I don't blame her for using that technology to do that report. Fine. There's a place, I guess, for AI and all that for that. But if the people that are working for Higher Reliance are replacing putting stuff in the system, notes from their interview. They were on the phone with a candidate for an hour, learning all of the nuances, or AEs on the phone with the client for an hour, learning everything they need to know about that client. Okay, part of the job is to take all that information that's in your head and type it away and put it in the ATS. Now, a person that's selling AI is going to say, that's a menial task. We should take that task away from the recruiter and the AE, and that should... No, that's part of the job. Part of the job is taking it
cut you off.
in.
I gotta cut you off.
You're gonna say AI is the best thing in the world, and I'm
Dave's getting on a fight.
I'm just gonna tell you right now, you sound old. You're the one.
Of course I do.
You know how many people I have one-to-one coaching sessions with a lot, right? So I had all morning, I do this with you guys, and then all afternoon. There's a feature embedded into a lot of these Zooms and Googles and Teams. I don't have to write a note. There's a summarization feature embedded in the tool that captures the conversation, that organizes the conversation, and sends it to me and the client. Mm-hmm. And then I just upload it to HubSpot, my database, which I use. So I don't even have to write anything down anymore. My point is it is more valuable to me to have a tool like that so I can pay attention to the person I'm talking to. So I'm just saying that there is tremendous value in these tools, but we can't, the tools aren't going to replace our competence, because eventually, especially in your business, a human being has to show up to work with other human beings, even if it's remote. And if that human being lacks work ethic, lacks curiosity, lacks a good attitude, they're not going to make it. So getting in is just part of the issue. It's staying there that's the real issue. And in the staffing industry, with all due respect to all the great people that I've met in staffing over the years, there's a lot of money that the industry has made over the years. There are a lot of business owners, especially in the tech space, who have made a gazillion dollars on a couple of cash cow accounts that they've ridden for years and years and years. And they've gotten really, really comfortable. And a lot of them, some of them fell into the accounts, some of them inherited the accounts, and some of them opened the accounts on their own. I'm not discrediting how they got those accounts. But what they don't know and what they failed to do is teach other people how to acquire that next cash cow. So I think there's an inherent laziness. And if you're listening and you don't like what I have to say, hit the freaking eject button.
The
But
X.
the reality is, there's a lot of wealthy people in the industry who have not figured out how to translate their secrets to their staff, because quite frankly, some of them just fell into those secrets.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the reality is, and Dave Kamel, what you were talking about with tools, there's always been tools. You know, we were alive when Monster came along, and that was going to ruin the industry, and that was terrible. And then it just became another thing we use. AI years ago, you know, the automated emails, that's another tool we use. I do agree. The real weakness right now is the face-to-face, is the relationship, right? Is the actual relationship. And on the staffing side of this, on the agency side, the
Yeah.
challenge that, you know, my clients are having is that when you think about it, from 2020 to now, if you've got a 5 year to 1 year person, so if you hired someone 5 years ago, they got in the business of COVID and the world changed. And then this was the only way they could communicate. So they learned the business by not meeting their clients. They weren't allowed to. They couldn't. You know, and so for that person, they spent 3 years in the business before they could really go knock on a door. By then, they were making more money. The job was easy. Everyone was making money. They don't know how to. You know, there's agencies right now with 0 to 5 year people that have never had to and don't know how to sit across a desk or a table or a lunch or a golf cart from a manager or a hiring person, right? It wasn't part of the thing. And so now they wake up, and what happened to those kids? In 2023, those clients they had, those relationships, they went away. Why? Because they weren't relationships. They were acquaintances. They were people that were necessary evils at that point because, you know, everyone was dying for people. And now those kids, 4 years into the job, have no clients because they never really had any relationships, right? So when I talk to my staffing owners, their companies are filled with people that are either in that 1 to 5, 0 to 5 year thing that, to Dave Turano's point, they haven't really been taught how to go do it and really go build a relationship, or they've got 7 to 10 year people in the business that know what it's like. They've done it before, but they don't want to.
Right.
They just don't want to. Yeah, I mean, they worked time and hog for 3 years, made more money than they've ever made, working less.
A lot of
it's been a really big conundrum in the staffing industry right now when it comes to that profile.
It is and it's not. It's not a conundrum. It's like, just face the truth, which is there are plenty of really successful people in the staffing industry to this day doing exactly what we're doing, what we're saying. They're out there meeting with people they never stopped. And the reality is even the 23, 24, 25-year-old person, even though they might not have learned the business, you know, pre-COVID, maybe they got in during that, they're still people that have known other people. They've actually seen other human beings, so they're capable of that. But the reality is none of my children drove a car until they drove a car, right? So now we're not, you know, for 16 years, my parents didn't let me drive the car. Well, because you didn't have a license, okay? But now you have one, which means you're going to get behind the wheel and you're going to drive that car with me in it. And that's what needs to happen. And the reality is if the staffing industry is serious, if it doesn't want to become obsolete, then everybody with experience at a leadership level has to roll up their sleeves and show what it's like, bring their newbies out to client visits, to go meet candidates, to go to network in certain strategic places. That's what's not happening. You don't let your kid get behind the wheel of a car and say, all right, best of luck. You have to actually drive with them. Driver's ed teachers drive with them. We drive with them. So I don't see enough of that. I see more, not all, I don't want to say all, but I see a lot of senior people in the space They're just building these false empires. Well, I need to get a COO in, and we got a chief learning officer. They're so busy adding layers of nonsense, but what they're not doing is getting out on the road with their people, and a lot of them don't know how to. I know companies right now have huge clients that spend a ton of money. They don't know the clients. They're just riding the wave, and in the meantime, the client is probably judging them for not knowing them. So eventually the client reduces their rates or squeezes their margins and say, hey, we're going up for a reverse auction. See you later. Without the FaceTime, and I put this all on leadership. I'm like, I can't stand hearing how the 20 somethings and the 30 somethings don't get it. It was our generation and our that raised those people. So it's the reason they don't get it is because we didn't do our jobs,
Right.
and we're fat and happy. And I don't mean us specifically, but there's a lot of fat and happy people out there.
Well, that's my point to your analogy about the car. So my point is in 21 and 22 and some of 23, when these folks were hired, they weren't taught to drive. They were put in a self-driving car, and
Yep.
the self-driving car was driving around. And then all of a sudden, it stopped. Now you've got someone that doesn't know how to drive.
Yeah.
So if your kid was put in a self-driving car and you were never sitting there with them, and then 3 years the self-driving cars just stopped working, your kid would not know how to drive. Someone would have to teach him, and that's where we are right now, in my opinion,
Well, it's
in the
been
staffing
four
industry.
years, but it's been 4 years. So the first year, fine. You were in the self-driving car and I couldn't go with you. Fine. Now that we're not in the self-driving car and we actually have to be out doing our jobs, go do your job. It's as simple as saying, look, that year sucked. It's gone though. It's over. I've got to do my job now. So I think that's the bot. I don't even know we're going to get in this argument, but
I love it. Let's go.
it just drives me crazy because I don't believe it to be true. I had a guy call me yesterday, a young kid. He's a junior in college, and he's looking at a sales job right now, not in the industry. And he called me for advice and what questions should I ask and what should I be thinking about, blah 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 blah. And a lot of these kids are getting paid internships right now, but this kid says this is unpaid. It's an unpaid cold calling sales job for this big giant company. I go, how do you feel about doing work for free? He's like, you know what? I'm willing to do it. I said, why? He goes, because anything that I'm able to secure will become mine if I decide to take a job when I graduate. So I'm basically building a foundation for myself. I may fail, but it's going to teach me how to build my own relationships. I'm like, wow, this kid's got guts. This kid has courage. This is a 20-year-old kid willing to make cold calls in a space that he knows nothing about. And if he fails, he's like, at least I can say I tried. You know what I mean? And ultimately, in that business, I won't say the names, he has to get out in front of people too. So I see a lot of. I just worked with a young guy out in Chicago. He graduated last year from the same school my son went to. And he sent me a Word doc yesterday with a bunch of podcast topics because he and I have been talking about advice that he wished he had last year when he was in school, things he's learned over the last year. It wasn't easy for him to get this job. But he went out and did all these same things. He contacted C-level people with no experience in the space. He reached out to people that did not know him without even applying for the job. Can I learn about your company? Would you be willing to give me 10 minutes? It took him a little extra time, but he's got a gig now. And we had a couple of great Zoom calls. And I'm just saying that there's a talent and desire in this generation of person. And I think our generation of person needs to take more responsibility for the things we've allowed and tolerated. And quite frankly, the things we haven't done.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yep.
because again, putting yourself out there and trying to get the attention of that hiring manager, the person hiring for that position, the person that has a position open, it can't be. LinkedIn has become like we're stuck with it, right? That has become the Bible for everybody to go on, apply for a job, reach out to a candidate, reach out to this, send a manager an email, send a manager a message. I mean, I want to know how many of the corporate recruiters that are out there trying to find a job, and the only way you're trying to reach out to Jack, the hiring manager, is by his post on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Have you emailed Jack? Well, I don't know his email address. Yes, you do. It's not hard to find somebody's email address. I mean, let's go old school. It's not hard to find the domain name of the company and figure out the email stat. Email them that way. Get the attention of what this came in my inbox instead of my post that I put on LinkedIn. Try to get his attention by sending him an actual email. It sounds so fucking out of the wall. How do I find out Jack's email address? If you need that, then we'll give a whole lesson on that. But that should be something that every recruiter should know how to figure out the email address of Jack. But
Yeah.
trying to get Jack's attention
Yeah.
is something that has to be. I mean, the amount of postings that Jay and I, every corporate recruiter sees, you see a posting on LinkedIn for a job. I don't care what the job is, but the talent acquisition jobs that are out there, and there's 600 responses, and you look at all of them, and 300 responses are, "I'm interested. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
interested." Again, it's you sitting behind home plate saying, "I want a hot dog.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
hungry."
And you're not even raising your hand.
You're not even raising your hand. You're just hitting the button.
So, but
And again, I don't want to belittle the fact that there's only one hot dog vendor for 30,000
yeah.
people, and that's really a good analogy for the amount of jobs that are out there right now in talent acquisition. I know you're saying everybody's hiring. Careful,
Yeah.
because I do not want to ignore our audience of talent acquisition specialists. That for every one job, there's about 3,000.
Everybody's hiring. They may not be hiring corporate recruiters, but Turano, you
Right.
said something in the past, and I want you to talk about this. To that point that Dave just brought up is,
Yeah.
how would you go about getting in front of that person? Because you've always had that unique approach about figuring out who you know that knows them through the LinkedIn post and how many people we connected to. Because you've always talked to me about you're not going to email them, you're not going to LinkedIn message them. You're probably going to get introduced to them because you probably know someone that knows them. Talk about that strategy because you've gone down that road with me a few times.
Over the years, yes. Can I make one more comment on what Dave
Yeah.
just? I'll talk about that. Here's the thing. Now I'm already losing my thought on what Dave just said. You just said something. I'm like,
Listen, we're gonna have a talent talk big bingo card. And we already had you've already gone off of 5 tangents.
No.
So
I got it. The thing is in order to reach out, you're focused on a job or a person. Fine, but at the end of the day, do you have something to give or to offer or to suggest, an idea, something of value that you can potentially give to somebody, help somebody with? If you're out there needing and wanting and hoping, you're already screwed. You smell. Like, people can smell that desperation and that neediness from a mile away. It's, what are you doing proactively just to start a relationship from a place of, I actually have something I can bring to the table. Maybe not now, but I add a lot of value. You've got to start from that place. As far as the introducing, Jay, I'll say this, and you know this. I am very quick to make introductions. I'm very quick to refer. If I believe in you, if I think you're a competent, good person, I will go out of my way to introduce you to another person. So I have no qualms about expecting to be introduced by other people. So it would be as simple as me calling. I wouldn't hesitate for a second. I respect your networks, and I don't want to pirate anything of yours. But if I wanted to know somebody, Dave, I did it to you the other day. I mean, it wasn't even for me, but one of my clients called. Confidentially, and I said, "There's somebody that I know that may know somebody that could help you. And I told you first.
Yep.
Told him. I said, I'll introduce you guys, and then you guys can take it from there. It's as simple as that. I'm going to call you as my friend / client and say, Dave, would you be willing to do this? Would you be willing to? Yeah, nope. It's not even a discussion. I call him, and then I get a big thank you for him, whatever. It's as simple as that. But now, if I was just a stranger doing that to you, it might be a little more awkward, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I try to start from a place of, what can I do for this person? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can give? Even with the podcasting. The podcast I put out, there's nothing to sell. There's nothing to sell with that thing. All I'm trying to go ahead.
I was going to say, the piece of this that was always an eye-opener to me, because even though I've been doing this for years, I had my blinders on to, like, if I was trying to get into a client, I was thinking about who I knew in the industry that knew that person, but I was ignoring the rest of my life, right? And so what I've found over the years is that I have someone I know that's not even in the staffing industry that's connected to someone that is.
Bingo.
And I talked to him. He's like, yeah, he's my college roommate. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. I call him, intro, boom. I've just skipped 17,000 people in the line, and I'm now getting a hot dog. So I think people have kind of forgotten that, like, who do we already know? And don't just assume because your best buddy Jim is a lawyer that he's not connected to maybe someone that's in the job that you're trying to get. So I think we get laser focused. Dave Kamel, to your point, the whole like, oh, I'm interested. We can fall into this trap of just applying and applying and applying all day. What'd you do today? Looking for a job? I spent all day looking. No, they spent all day just clicking a button. That's not looking for anything. That's not going to get anything. You've got to kind of get outside the box around, because especially as corporate recruiters looking for that job, their networks are massive. And there's going to be someone in that network that is maybe connected to that hot dog vendor. You're going to have a better shot getting the hot dog that way than trying to get in that line and jump around and hope they see.
But again, I don't want to just harp on the corporate recruiter looking for that job. It's also, we know the account executives at staffing firms right now are having a tough time getting clients,
looking for the
new clients,
getting a job. Same thing.
Yep,
same thing. Who's my buddy's a hiring manager? I didn't realize you guys went to school together. It's certainly going to be a better option than emailing him or her for the 57th time.
Yep.
Because that's
and,
all.
and Dave, to go back to your point from 1,000 hours ago, as far as me hating AI, I know why it exists. I know why it exists. And menial tasks, and there was a girl, Don, who owns an agency in New York. I'd love for her to be a guest on one of our shows. She had a podcast the other day, and she talked about high volume versus high value, and where the AI world can fit into that high volume. Those yes, and then the high value is the part that Jay and I have been preaching since we've been in staffing. We were lucky enough back in the early 1800s to be in an agency where it was all about value. It wasn't about volume. So growing up where I want Sean and Catherine and Courtney and Chandler, the people that work for us, when they get a letter sent to them, and Jay, how many letters have we gotten over the last X amount of years from a candidate that says, working with your recruiter was awesome. I didn't take a job through Hire Alliance, but I just want to let you know working with this recruiter was the balls.
Yeah,
okay.
Valuable.
So paraphrasing, obviously.
Yeah.
But hearing that relationship, whatever that was, I'm not looking for AI to replace any of that. I'm not. You can't replace. Yeah, you can't replace that kind of. I didn't get a job. I didn't take the job through Hire Alliance, but working with Courtney, working with Shannon, working with Calvin was fantastic. That is what makes Jay and I cry. That's fantastic. That goes on a friggin' magnet on the refrigerator with a big blue ribbon. That's that's what we love. Trying to replace that with AI, that's what makes me throw up. I don't see a relationship like that being replaced with Chat GPT, whatever the fuck it's called. I just
no.
I know I sound old. I don't care.
I think there's a P in there. I can help you with the PAM.
Yeah, I don't know the acronym.
I think the P is silent.
A bunch of people. It's a silent P. Anyway,
but can I say this along the lines of requesting an introduction or giving an introduction or asking somebody for help or reaching out to somebody? The other skill set, and I don't even know if it's a skill set, but just a way of being that I think is so critical is just being responsive, following up, following through, saying thank you, keeping people posted about what happened or didn't happen. Show them the courtesy of kind of a completed interaction. That, quite frankly, doesn't happen nearly as much as it could and should, in my experience. I don't see enough of that. I'll see people, I forgot to tell you, I followed up, so-and-so didn't get back to me. Or we're on our third meeting. I had somebody get a job, and I found out after the fact. Now, the client told me that. I'm like, wow, the person that I referred didn't tell me they got it. That's unbelievable. Now, I already knew it, and I don't need like a cash prize. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you didn't even think for a second. And we talk about it on the front end. Keep me posted. If you run into a roadblock, if you're having successes, let me know. But even that is not natural for a lot of people. That is the one criticism I would have of some of the younger audience. I don't want to say all of it, is they underestimate the importance of those little subtle follow-ups and follow-throughs. I don't know what you guys think of that. That's just my experience.
Yeah, we could spend hours talking about the mindset. And again, I'm done talking about the millennials being lazy. That was easy to say a bunch of years ago. 20-somethings are lazy. They're lazy. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
That's like our grandfathers calling the three of us lazy because we used a remote control instead of getting up and hitting the friggin' button on the TV.
No, we were poor.
They're not.
I didn't have.
But they're not lazy. They have technology that we didn't, and of course they're going to do the job differently than we did a long time. They're not lazy. They're just using the technology that's in front of them. But them understanding relationships and the long-termness of this job, understand, and you and I talked about this the other day, Dave, instant gratification is the world we live in right now. I can sit on my couch as soon as we're done, and I can pick up the remote. I can watch anything I want to with a click of a button.
Well, for
Anything I
you to
want
go to
to. I
work.
can watch Titanic. I can watch anything I want with a click of a button. And the only thing I'd get pissed at is if the buffering comes in. But everything is at our fingertips right now, and it's ridiculous. How do you translate that instant gratification to a staffing owner that's hiring a 25-year-old kid and say, look, it's going to take 6 months for you to build relationships. It's going to take 6 months to build your network. It's going to take 9 months for the commission checks to start flowing in. That is two completely different worlds. Doesn't mean that 25-year-old's lazy,
No.
but instant gratification is a very difficult thing in our world of sales where it's not an
Yeah.
instant gratification type of job.
But that's people. I mean, people forever have needed that. I mean, think about it. Oh, I have high cholesterol. I'll take the cholesterol pill. I want to lose weight. I take the weight. Oh, I can't go to sleep. I'll take the sleeping pill. I mean,
Why do we have to keep talking about old people problems?
Yeah.
I pee the bed. This is going to be great. Our
this-
first commercial. Do you have ED? Can we get to stuff that's just of the younger? Stop it.
no. But what I'm saying is instant gratification and quick fixes have been a thing forever. We just have new versions of that right now. And the reality is that all comes down to parenting. I mean, good parents will teach their kids how to work for things, how to earn things, not to make things harder on them, but the process of building foundational skills or knowledge or competence. And I promise you, there are lots and lots of young people very willing to do those things. If you show them this is what it is and this is how they'll do it. There's no resistance to that. I think what we're hoping, and when I say we, I mean from an industry perspective, and it's not just the staffing industry, it's all industries. We're hoping that by osmosis, this new crowd of hires will figure it out because we figured it out. The reality is I didn't figure it out. I was a lazy piece of shit. I didn't have a work ethic. I did not learn things quickly until I almost got fired. That's when I started learning. I'm like, oh shit, this is going to cost me my job?
Did we know this? Did we know this when we brought him in? Was this in the biography? We could have brought somebody better in than this.
It's on page 3. It's on the floor.
I've told Jay a million times, nothing came naturally to me. I did not show up at 25 years old with a work ethic at all. Anybody that worked with me back in the 90s can tell you. If it was 4:55, I'm gone. I am gone. If I had to be there at 8:30, I was there at like 8:35. Like I just didn't have those skills until it became a problem. Until I started to take myself more seriously. So I don't want to criticize any young people. I look at it and say, I think every single person on the planet craves the process of becoming good at something. And they need to understand. And once they understand it, once you understand what it takes to become good at anything, that becomes the addiction. It's the process of it. The quick fix is terrible. The quick fix creates a false sense of confidence. It creates all sorts of mental health problems because people start to believe in the quick fix. There's no foundational knowledge or competence underneath it. And I think we're doing a lot of people a disservice by making things easy. I think we got to make things hard and interesting.
Well, what you also have is right now the market. You've got people taking advantage of what the market's right now, and all you see are ads all over LinkedIn. Hey, you become a 9-figure agency in 9 months. Follow my plan. Follow my 9-step sales process, and I'll have you getting jobs. Please, just still God the noise.
I've got a 9-stepper around here somewhere. It's in one of my,
you get people. If you join my services, and I'll do it. Shut up. Jesus Christ, just stop.
Well,
do we have any questions for Dave? Is there anything popping in there? Does anybody want to talk?
No. I had a couple of people asking how can they do the chat thing. If as long as you have a Gmail account, you can actually get in the chat. But you've got to create a channel. You got to get a handle. I got a couple of people. Somebody just said, please have Dave Turano on back. He's very sexy.
It's another one that's a lie.
No one said that. No.
Yeah.
I think I typed that one in. I think I actually...
You typed that. It wasn't even the wife. It wasn't even your wife.
No, because she would never say that. She would never say that.
Well, Dave,
no, I mean, here's the thing, but guys,
I want to ask a question.
You want to ask a question? Okay. You also said our first one wasn't going to be an hour. We're almost
it's an hour, 6 minutes.
Told you it was going to go by. So let's go.
I want to go quick, but Dave, you walk into companies all the time. What's like the number one challenge you deal with consistently when you're walking into a company trying to do some executive coaching or training or whatever it is? What's the thing you're finding the most?
People don't get along with other people.
Wow, really?
The biggest problem I see everywhere is that people are unable to be candid with other people. And
Mm.
so they create stories in their minds about other people, they talk sideways about other people, they hint and tiptoe around other people, they ignore other people, they bitch about other people, but they don't actually confront what they need to say to somebody else. And so as a result of that, all sorts of toxicity mounts in companies, and they start to see it when we work together. It's let's clean up this shit. That's the problem. And the same thing is happening with the client side too. In every world, the client will often feel sold and then neglected. And then those things mount and build up. So it's about, for me, I would love to see a more proactive approach to business with employees and customers. Let's get out in front of what we're not saying to each other, and let's figure out a way to have productive conversations about that stuff. That to me is by far the biggest problem, because it's the other big problem is just hiring in general is a flippin' problem for most companies. They don't proactively source talent as a practice. And then with the agents, I spent 13 years in the agency business. The agency business theoretically is just-in-time inventory for the clients that hire those resources. But the reality is very few agencies have any just-in-time inventory. They're reacting to a client that's reacting. Right? So that to me, those two things are a big problem. And then onboarding people effectively and setting appropriate standards and expectations and accountability and all, that's also, those things all kind of come together. I could keep going, but I would say those are the most common. The other thing I want to say though is, and Dave, and this is what I forgot to say when I lost my train of thought earlier.
Wait, let me check the bingo card. I'm not sure which one this is going to be. Go ahead.
I know you interrupted me again. No. So whether companies are hiring or not, they're hiring. There is a person or a group of people in every single company that aren't doing anything. And so whether there's an open job today or a project put on hold for I don't care. There is somebody inside of that team or that division or that company that's doing shit, and they're being ignored. They have bad attitude. They don't produce. They don't get along with other people. They're always late. You can't count on them. And I don't mean to pick on people. Everybody's got their own problems, but some of these problems will linger for years. All of those people could be upgraded if you brought talent to the table. So it's about, again, this ties back to your question, Jay, is a lot of these organizations have not been candid enough with those people. So they sit there and they tolerate them, and everyone talks about them, and everybody ignores it when they're in the room. And in the meantime, well, we don't have any openings. We're not hiring. We're in a hiring freeze right now. Right, because you're not doing your flipping job. So you got me going here, but that's
Didn't take much.
I never believe you're not hiring. That's bullshit. You're not hiring. You should be upgrading then, because there's somebody there not doing anything, and you know it, and everybody on your team knows it. And
well, you're talking about having somebody reaching out to a company with the reason, hey, I'm very interested in working for your company. This is my background. Don't wait for them to post something to reach out to them.
No, because once they post, once the job is released, it has probably been released to other people too.
Oh yeah.
If I called you tomorrow and said, I have a stud recruiter and a stud salesperson, here's their track record, this is how I know them, this is what they've produced, and they're going to cost you X amount of dollars, but this is what they're going to bring to the table. What are you going to say? Oh, no. Jesus, it'd be great. I know. No, it's great that they had a $10 million book of business, but geez, we're just not hiring right now.
Yeah.
We got Betty over here. She kind of sucks, and she's got a lot of problems at home, but we can't get rid of her.
No, there's not an agency out there right now that has a Betty. So you just aged yourself.
Roxanne, Billy, Fred, I don't care what the name is. But my point is anyone who's listening, of all the thousands and thousands of people that are listening right now, every single one of you is sitting somewhere in a company next to somebody else who doesn't do anything. If an agency like yours called them and said, hey, I have somebody that's great. You don't hire any great people because you're not hiring, correct? No sane business owner, manager, anybody with anything, any substance is going to turn down a call if you have talent. But if you're reacting and you're trying to find people on the fly and you're not even meeting your own candidates, no one's going to buy anything from you. But the bottom line is, if they were more proactive about their hiring, strategies, you could be more proactive with your recruiting strategies, and you could place people all the time. You can go into any organization at any point in time, any industry, and replace 10-15% of people, no problem. And I don't mean to be cold about it. I don't mean to be cold, but that's the truth.
Yep.
We have our first question, like a real question.
Oh no!
Live chat.
We're at 1 hour.
When is this going to end?
We're at the 1 hour mark. We'll go for a couple more minutes. Mr. Turano.
Oh no!
How do you think remote work impacts people being able to get along with each other? And it's true, because this is different. This is different than, I mean, it only took a cold for everybody to use Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, and everything else. It took one little cold for everybody to not be in office anymore.
Okay.
Things have dynamically changed. So that's a good question.
How do I think? I think remote work has a major impact if you don't maintain an open line of communication with another person. So I went remote for the first time in 2002. I moved to Virginia, and I had to work out of my condo. We didn't have all the same stuff we have right now. There was no Zoom or anything like that. So everything I did was remote. The office I reported to was in Maryland, and my clients were not in my office. So everything I did was by phone. And I will say, if I have a strength, I'm really good at keeping the lines of communication open. I'm incredibly responsive. So if communication and responsiveness is part of your bag of tricks, remote work is not a problem. If you're hard to reach, if the people that you want to talk to are hard to reach, it's a problem. But at the end of the day, my business was developed. I mean, I think back early days in sales, I developed business down south from Boston, all remote, all by phone, all relentless cold, making calls, sending emails, and just being relentlessly persistent about it. And in the end, it turned into a $12 million piece of business.
Right.
So it's going to come down to your commitment to communication and demanding that from the other person in return, or those other people in return. I know you probably have more depth to that question, but.
No, that's all right.
Well, I think it's easy thing to ignore. I think the responsiveness piece and the availability is really critical, right? It's easy to disappear for a day, and people can't get a hold of you, and it's a disaster. So I think that's spot on.
Yeah, the other thing is just knowing there are pockets during the day that, and a lot of people don't like this, but they'll disagree with this, having not done it, is I find tremendous opportunity early morning. It is not unusual for me to drop somebody a text or an email at 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. and get a response. And the same thing at night. And you know as well as I'll take a pocket in the middle of the day, not today, unfortunately, but I'll take an hour and a half and go shoot some hoops and come back. But if I have to communicate with somebody at 9 o'clock at night, I'm doing it. And it's those pockets during the day where everyone else is just checked out that can bridge that communication, whether you're remote or not. But I don't see remote as an issue at all. I think that if you have to develop client relationships remotely or candidate relationships remotely, maybe just a little bit more nurturing, over LinkedIn or email or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's possible. I've done it, and I still do it. My entire business right now is remote. I don't go anywhere. So unless I'm invited in to do training or whatever, it's all.
You also bring up, I mean, again, the challenge, the amount of people that the three of us have talked to in this industry in the past billion years, there are definitely traits that are just not trainable. And that ability to build relationships from scratch with ease is something you had before you sucked as a recruiter. You're shaking your head no. You learned how to have, I'd call bullshit. You already had the personality and the DNA in you already to be a good communicator, to be a good salesperson, and to build relationships.
I'm not saying I don't have a skill set, Dave. I'm not saying I don't have a skill set that I nurtured over the years. I had to recognize it and then realize there is something, and then I had to work hard at it. But I am not a natural extrovert, whether you want to believe that or not. I was not a natural extroverted kid. I swear to God. If you talk to my dad right now, if he talks to you about myself and my siblings, and he said this to my wife who's sitting in the other room, I was the quietest. I said the least. And so
That might be our next guest. Christy
what,
might be
what,
our next guest.
what
We
you,
might have to get the wives.
but walking in front of people was always tough. Standing up in front of them. Jay, you were in the very first session I ever stood in front of. I was crapping my pants. I don't know if I looked nervous, but I was nervous.
I almost didn't go back. Actually, it was.
I'm shocked you came. But it was not natural for me to put myself out there. Now I had made a ton of cold calls and sold a bunch of stuff, but then all of a sudden standing in front of a room, and then the first time I stood in front of like 500 people, I'm like 500 people here. Oh my god! Like you just everything is hard. So I will tell you, I've had to learn and work really hard to interact in this way. It was not natural. I was very private, one friend at a time, maybe two. That was it. I don't want a big crowd, or I still don't want a big crowd around me.
All right, I do. I didn't mean to turn this into the Dave. I'm sorry. Didn't mean
Yep.
to turn it into
I
a
didn't guess.
Totally blew that.
goddamn Dr. Phil Oprah special about Dave Turano. That we don't want. No, we don't have enough time.
Now we're 5 minutes over as it is.
All right.
Call this to a close.
Well, we've gotten nowhere. That's all I can say.
No, I think we heard some really positive stuff.
But here's what I want to do, and I'm gonna, obviously this is gonna be viewable again. It's on our YouTube channel, and I'm gonna put something out there on LinkedIn. But I would love to get some input again. Jay and I, and you've had some suggestions on who we should have on this thing, who we should have on, what should they talk about, and I'd love to hear from other people on what do you want to hear. Do you ever want Dave Turano to come back, or is this a one and done kind of thing? But that's the thing about this, and I talked about it being organic, and that's one thing you said is it can go anywhere. Who do you want to hear from? Who do you want us to bring on board and hear their ideas? I want to hear that. I want to hear that kind of input. I don't want to just assume that it's just friends of Jay and I, and everybody wants to talk to them. Maybe not.
So the two people that were listening, put some thought into that. Some emails.
There were more than two. There were more than two.
Figure it out.
There were not 200. There were more than two. So, David, thank you.
Awesome. It was great, Dave. Thanks. We love it. A lot of energy here. This is good stuff. This is what we're looking for.
Thanks for pushing us to do it. Only for 4 years. Only 4 years. Just think of where we'll be in 4 more years.
More people should do this stuff. I mean, you've got a lot to say. You guys are engaging. I don't like either of you.
Of course
not. But I'll say this. I have said this to you for a number of years. I mean, your greatest strength is your personalities. And for you to not put them out there is doing a disservice to your company. You guys need to be out there engaging, even on this platform with people like me. But that's where the rubber meets the road. Put yourselves out there. Enough of the blind LinkedIn posts and all that, which we all should be doing anyway. But you've got to give people an opportunity to get familiar with who you are, what your personalities are all about, why you started this company, some of the challenges you're going through. Humanize yourselves. I've known you for years. You're friends more than client. I think of you as friends first, but it's because I got the chance to know you. You guys gave me the opportunity to do that, and I just think you should invite more people in to do stuff like this. It will help them as much as it'll help you.
Awesome. Love it.
Right, we don't have any music. I gotta get some stuff. I gotta do some stuff. It's kind of a cool end.
Just gonna end.
It's just
It's
gonna
like
go.
it's like the end of the Sopranos. It's just going.
It is gonna just go to black. It's gonna just go to black.
Like, so on SmartList, when you listen to SmartList, their guests smash the laptop shut, but I don't have a laptop. I have a
laptop.
Like, what do I do? Do I just leave suddenly? Like, what do
it's just gonna go to black. I mean, all the thousands of people that are watching it are just gonna be very disappointed that it's just gonna go to black.
All right, one more thing.
Oh shit! Bingo card. Go ahead.
Nice, awesome. That was awesome. He just left. He did the Sopranos thing to us.
He did a good job. Jay, I'll talk to you. Thanks everybody for watching. Talk to you later. See ya.